This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. A reading from the Course in Miracles, Chapter 11, God or the Ego, Section 7, The Condition of Reality. Paragraph 1. The world as you perceive it cannot have been created by the Father, for the world is not as you see it. God created only the eternal, and everything you see is perishable. Therefore, there must be another world that you do not see. The Bible speaks of a new heaven and a new earth. Yet this cannot be literally true, for the eternal are not recreated. To perceive anew is merely to perceive again, implying that before, or in the interval between, you are not perceiving at all. What then is the world that awaits your perception when you see it?
This is an interesting idea, and that's that there isn't a new earth. And there isn't a new heaven of any kind. Because, St. Augustine, he has this whole deal on that there's an earth in development. Earth is changeable, heaven is unchanging. And so that earth is in a process of mutation. And the Course is saying, well, that's not the case.
The world is not the earth. The earth is, I think, part of the time-space because it's form, it's time-space. But the world has to do with the perceptual reality that is in front of me and that I'm interpreting all the time based on my sensory being, and so that's how I look at it. So Jesus said he was not of this world, and basically he was perceiving the eternal in everyone at all times. Is what I think was happening, but. So the world as I perceive it cannot have been created by the Father, for the world is not as you see it. That's a kind of a wake-up call because, obviously I think I'm seeing the world as I see it, but the Course speaks specifically to vision, and the only way you have true vision is when you are experiencing the eternal being reflected back. And
I guess what I'm saying is that the earth itself is as eternal and as fixed. The so-called perceivable world is, in a sense, a fixed entity, no different than heaven. The thing that's different is my perceptual basis. That's what changes. That's what evolves.
Mm-hmm. And it's going to be addressed in the second paragraph about what exactly is saved, so to speak, in this world that we perceive.
Okay, second paragraph. Every loving thought that the Son of God ever had is eternal. The loving thoughts his mind perceives in this world are the world's only reality. They are still perceptions because he still believes that he is separate. Yet they are eternal because they are loving. And being loving, they are like the Father and therefore cannot die. The real world can actually be perceived. All that is necessary is a willingness to perceive nothing else. For if you perceive both good and evil, you're accepting both the false and the true and making no distinction between them.
Again, that's the Course is constantly distinguishing between the real world. The real world has to do with everything that is eternal. What's nice is that this actually says that my my experience or the things that I actually give and receive in this world that have to do with love are kept. They're kept in the eternal. They are there. They don't go away. They're part of my creations. And any other loving thoughts that come towards me, or I'm giving loving thoughts to others, is kept in the eternal mind of God because it's like itself. And so to me, that's beautiful to know that that's the only thing that's saved. That's the only thing that God knows. In fact, the only thing that God knows of me is that I'm loving, I'm peaceful, and I'm joyful, because that's my true nature.
Right. And so the interesting thing again about this is that it implies that there's a loving thoughts, loving gestures, whatever this love is. I mean, I'm going to say that I don't quite understand love. As I said before, I thought that love had something to do with gravity itself. Trying to understand that it's not sentimentality. Mm-hmm. Love isn't feelings,
right,
or sentimentality. Love is a quality that, according to the Course, is saying that it's absolutely enduring. So there's a sense, in a way, what I perceive in this, there's a little bit of what, let's say, Michelangelo said about sculpting, which was, I think he said he removes from the marble, from a block of marble, he removes all that is not the image that he's looking for.
Yeah.
So that I'm almost getting a sense of sculpting, that this world is an image. It's an enduring heavenly vision, this world. And that my role here is to reveal that it's there. But my perceptual basis, I am like a blockhead, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And by removing my blockheadedness, I reveal what's really there, if that makes any sense.
Yes, it does. I don't know, it just makes me smile to think that loving thoughts that are given in the world, and in other words, all the hatred, all of the upsets, all of the things that go wrong here in our perceptual reality are not kept. They don't go anywhere. They're considered a nothingness, and yet it seems, we can't help but speak of good and evil, in duality. And it comes up all the time. And yet only good is ever the true, quote, good, which is God, is kept. And only loving thoughts and peaceful thought, the same qualities that are God, extensions through us, those are our creations, those are kept. I think that's beautiful. I don't know. I just really, really love that particular paragraph there.
Yeah.
Paragraph 3. The ego may see some good, but never only good. That is why its perceptions are so variable. It does not reject goodness entirely, for that you could not accept. But it always adds something that is not real to the real, thus confusing illusion and reality. For perceptions cannot be partly true. If you believe in truth and illusion, you cannot tell which is true. To establish your personal autonomy, you tried to create unlike your father, believing that what you made is capable of being unlike him. Yet everything true is like him. Perceiving only the real world will lead you to the real heaven because it will make you capable of understanding it.
My kids wanted to see some, they hadn't been watching any television at all. And so I was hesitant to put on, I forget, it was one of the Star Wars episodes where Anakin becomes evil. Basically at the moment where Obi-Wan Kenobi, basically they're fighting and he ends up burnt to a crisp in a magma stream.
Yeah.
I told them, I said, the trouble with this is that it shows you an absolute evil, and there cannot be an absolute evil. The only absolute is good. There can only be absolute good. As an example, in light, you will not find any darkness in it.
Yes.
But darkness itself has, degrees of of light in it or something. So that there's a thing there to where light is light and dark is not just dark. Dark is always an admixture of something else. And that's what it's saying here. The ego requires, as I said before, the ego requires good. Because if you saw the absolute nature of the ego's agenda, you would reject it.
Right.
So it's necessary
Right.
to have always a degree of deception, hiding, lying, confusion.
Right. And points of having great excitement or, happiness based on, whatever makes us perceived happy. It could be purchasing thing, going on a trip, falling in love, all these things. So we have all these perceptions of like happy moments, but always spiked with, it could all fall apart any moment.
Yeah, right, exactly. So I'll do paragraph 4. The perception of goodness is not knowledge, but the denial of the opposite of goodness enables you to recognize a condition in which opposites do not exist. And this is the condition of knowledge. Without this awareness, you have not met its conditions, and until you do, you will not know it is yours already. You have made many ideas that you have placed between yourself and your Creator, and these beliefs are the world as you perceive it. Truth is not absent here, but it is obscure. You do not know the difference between what you have made and what God created, and so you do not know the difference between what you have made and what you have created. To believe that you can perceive the real world is to believe that you can know yourself. You can know God because it is His will to be known. The real world is all that the Holy Spirit has saved for you out of what you have made. And to perceive only this is salvation, because it is the recognition that reality is only what is true. So I don't know the difference between what I created and what I have made and what God created. And in fact, if I can only look at the world that I have made, the things that I have, let's say I've achieved according to whatever the relative agenda I have, I can't possibly see what I've created. And it's important to be able to see what I've created. And it's important to be able to see the world as it truly is, okay, to see with those clear eyes. Because if I can see the world as it truly is, it's the same as me knowing myself.
That's right. It is. And I mean, at the very beginning here, the perception of goodness is not knowledge, but the denial of the opposite of goodness enables you to recognize a condition in which opposites do not exist. So what am I denying here? I'm just trying to see this again. The perception of goodness is not knowledge. So knowledge, I mean, is what is all that is true in reality. But the denial of the opposite of goodness, which would be evil or badness or however, enables you to recognize a condition in which opposites. Oh, okay. So it brings it back to only one reality by denying the all the false things which have to do with the upsets and the evil and the wars and the whatever we consider uncomfortable anxieties and things like that. And if we deny the aspects of life, am I following that correctly?
Well, I think the way I look at it is, in terms of this, is in the yin yang symbol. There's two fish, they say, that are swimming one against the other, and one is white and the other is black, and they each have a dot of the opposite in them. So that's the symbol for duality. Okay. And the Course is saying, in a sense, that's false. I have good and shades of good. That's what's at work here. So it says to deny the opposite of light. And the way that I would do that is to say dark is, as they say so many times, it's a cliche. Yeah. Dark is the absence of light.
Right.
So dark isn't dark. That's terminology, because by saying dark is dark, and that's a certain kind of a value, then you can say death is the absence of life. Therefore, death is something to fear. It's a positive quality.
Yeah.
that's dark and foreboding. And like I told my kids about the Star Wars thing, there is no absolute evil. In other words, when you see evil revealed, you're going to have something that's deluded, ignorant, some sort of abuse of something. There's a confusion of things. But evil itself has nothing to say for what it is. Like, what constitutes evil? What actually, what constitutes good
Well,
because
anything
you
that's
see it.
I consider anything that's anti-life. I know against life, life and life force is, you know, it could be me spreading insecticides on my property or whatever. It's against life. It's anti-life. That's how I interpret what's considered evil, I guess, bad.
Okay, anti-life. I guess my point being is, once again, I'm poised to make choices. And if one of my choices is to see evil as something that needs to be eradicated. Let's say I see evil, I need to end evil. I need to stop evil. We need to put a stop to evil. It's a hopeless battle.
It is, because anytime you use sort of like attack to get rid of something, the war against drugs, and then the drug situation gets worse. There's a war against terror, and then terrorism grows. I don't understand why that happens, but it does all the time. Every time they attack something, it feeds whatever that is, and it seems to happen more.
No, exactly. And I'd say that that's part of the mechanism. Who created the Muslim Brotherhood, and how that's basically an intelligence operation in the United States, and that it's not a brotherhood of Muslims. It's something that was invented by the state as an anti-state. The state created an anti-state, and that anti-state does all the anti-life activities that they wouldn't be able to do as the state.
I see, yeah. Yeah, well, all I'm saying is that...
So in that sense, okay, if you use that example, the so-called evils of the world have a real value to somebody. So in only a confused way, they're good, because they're serving a purpose very clearly.
Well, yeah.
They're not a mistake.
No, I understand that.
Confusion, ignorance, violence is manipulated to serve someone's purposes.
Right. Whenever you keep something in a state of chaos where it doesn't have an opportunity to experience a level of peace, just because the body is constantly being attacked in one way or another, there's no way to, quote, think clearly. and it's a great way to keep division going and going and going. And that does serve people who want to change agendas and things like that in this world. And yet none of that, according to the Course, is recorded in the eternal at all. It's just big nothingness.
Okay, well, let's say, as an example, this popped into my head, take foot binding in older Japanese culture. That was a positive good, to bind up the feet. Now, it's pure torture for the girl. It cripples her so that she has to do this crazy little shuffle step that we have stereotyped with a certain kind of a Japanese geisha girl thing. But the foot binding itself can be successfully done, and it serves a purpose, keeping the girl close, having her do this stylized walking. So I look at it from my point of view as, I can look at it as evil, bad, but really it served someone's purposes, but it was confused that they somehow could make this woman or this girl a better version of something by idealizing a certain, let's say, feminine or a certain demure quality or a certain controllability as positive virtues. They end up doing this thing that now in retrospect we say is evil, but for them they say, "Oh, this is good." It has. So in a lot of ways, whenever you look at what we would call evil, it's about control.
Yeah,
and controlling things, so that in a sense, it's always a confused idea about achieving heaven on earth in some way. Every time it's the separation. Every evil can be identified as achieving heaven on earth by this confused means.
I also wanted to address this one area here. It's number 4 in this paragraph 4. You have made many ideas that you have placed between yourself and your Creator, and these beliefs are the world as you perceive it. Truth is not absent here, but it is obscure. You do not know the difference between what you have made and what God created, and so you do not know the difference between what you have made and what you have created. And in the prior paragraphs, it's saying that the world in which I'm making, or sort of, it's not. Truth isn't absent in my perceptual my perceptual world. It's always there, but it is obscured by the perceptual reality that's based on dualities and good and evil and things like that. And it's a reminder to the prior paragraphs that only loving thoughts are what remain in the kingdom of heaven. And it indicates to me that whenever I extend or a loving thought towards another, or I receive loving thoughts that are truly from a heart-based place.
Based on your authentic self. It has to come from the authentic self, or it will be obscured.
Yeah, it will be
with
obscured.
With things like sentimentality.
Yeah. It has to be unattached to whatever, expectations of it, whatever that is. And so it feels like to me that these are my extensions. I can't see what my extensions are. I will not know what they are, so long as I'm clouded with all of my own other perceptions. And yet, any loving thought is held in the mind of God. And so, to me, they feel like they're almost like jewels that whenever they come towards me or they're given out by anyone in this perceptual reality, they are kept, like gifts, like treasures in God's kingdom. And so I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it feels that way internally, like not all is lost in my perceptual reality. That's it's comforting to me to know that despite how we can't seem to see our real world within the perceptual reality that we are acting out, that whenever there are loving extensions, they are kept and they're treasured in God's kingdom. What do you think of that?
Well, I think that there's an irony to I agree. And the thing is, as Matthew Sanford would say, a healing story is a healing story. Mm-hmm. And the idea that I'm creating gems in some sort of crown, let's say, or in the kingdom of God, and that they're held there forever as enduring jewels, it is a healing story, because in terms of the Course and the way I understand it, I can't add anything to the kingdom. I can't add anything. So it's in another model that you would look at is I have a painting, let's say a painting of the kingdom of God, and my grievances are like a film over the top of the painting. And every loving gesture I make is cleaning off that portion of the painting. And I start revealing the painting below. And it creates excitement.
Yeah, it does.
Because then you can see, it's just like you used to feed kids and say, eat your cereal until you reveal whatever, Bozo the Clown at the bottom of your bowl. And that's supposed to be a motivation. But it is a motivation to think that, as an example, let's say I extend a loving thought. Basically, my authentic self, I go through a moment of humility, and I find someone that I had judgments about and was not worth my time, and then suddenly I feel like, wow, this is a brother, and I really have this moment of feeling this. I haven't contributed anything to the kingdom, But I do have the exciting possibility of thinking this is just a hint of all the other treasures that are underneath this thing. I don't have to really generate anything.
Right.
All I have to do is reveal these things. And it can lead to an excitement of what other quote-unquote losers I have rejected in my world can I polish up and reveal as what they truly are.
Oh, right.
Kind of a thing.
That is a good, I like that analogy of revealing the kingdom. It's just, again, I get excited about the idea of, it's like, oh, wait a second. I can just imagine a painting where you go, oh, wow, it looks like there's a masterpiece under here. And
you wouldn't want to sleep.
No, you wouldn't. Exactly.
You would just say, oh, I've got to get up, and you got to get up early in the morning.
That's right.
It is exciting. I get goosebumps thinking about it, to think that if that's the nature of this world,
yeah,
and that I can see any so-called miraculous event that reveals that portion, instead of saying, well, the Holy Spirit threw me a bone,
yeah.
I realize, no, this is an indication of the totality coming at me. There's more under there.
Yeah, that's beautiful. All right.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Is that it? Is that good?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right.